Coming up here on today's San Francisco 49ers report on this beautiful Thursday, September 12th, we have a new Christian McCaffrey injury update as he returned to the practice field on Thursday, on the field doing drills. We're also going to take a look elsewhere on the Niners injury report, and we finally have a Dre Greenlaw update and sighting from the SAP Performance Center as he was on the practice field as well for San Francisco. In what capacity? Stay tuned to find out. The enforcer, Dre Greenlaw, working his way back off that torn Achilles. Speaking of Achilles, that has been the buzzword of the week for the San Francisco 49ers. Are you worried about Christian McCaffrey's calf and Achilles issue? Let's hear from you down in the comment section. Y for yes or N for no. As for the latest on CMC, last week he was limited at practice. Then going into that game against the New York Jets, despite him saying that he thought he was going to play and all signs pointing to him playing, Ian Rappaport reporting that he was expected to play, he did not play against New York. I think a lot of that had to do with Christian McCaffrey taking himself off the practice field on Friday. Kyle Shanahan then said earlier this week, after the Niners pummeled the Jets, that McCaffrey is dealing with Achilles tendonitis. 2 words, Achilles tendonitis, you never want to hear for a player of this importance, of this greatness, who's coming off a masterful season in which he was the NFL Offensive Player of the Year, more than 2,000 all-purpose yards, but is a 28-year-old running back who led the league in touches last year. As of right now, the Niners are listing him as day-to-day, and we will find out more tomorrow on the Christian McCaffrey front when the Niners release their injury report in the lead-up to this Sunday game against Minnesota. Here's what McCaffrey said earlier this week, in case you missed it, on his injury, his mental process, and his approach this week. That's how I am every week. I'm not lying. I think as soon as a player says, maybe I will, maybe I won't play, that's not a good mentality to go into the week with if you're on the fence. For me, I'm ready to go. If you can't run on turf, you can't run on the field. If you can go, you can go. And Christian McCaffrey added, I'm approaching this game as if I'm playing on Sunday. And he was asked about the turf surface playing against the Vikings at their home field, US Bank Stadium. And he said, you can't worry about that. I'm not too worried about it. Now, all throughout this week, we've gotten a bunch of different messages. Christian McCaffrey saying, I'm approaching this week as if I'm going to play. But then you had Ian Rappaport saying it feels like a long shot for McCaffrey to play on Sunday against the Vikings. You had this from head coach Kyle Shanahan where he said the Achilles is tendonitis and that stuff comes and goes. And when it's acting up, it's something that you have to be very careful about. Christian's very diligent about that stuff. And if it was a playoff game, he made it very clear to me he believed that he could go. But when you hear that type of stuff and it's not a playoff game and it's week 1, especially when you're dealing with lower extremities, it was a tough decision for him to not play. But hearing all the words in the long run, it made it easy. Now, Albert Breer, who's an NFL insider for Sports Illustrated, said that if it were a playoff game, that Christian McCaffrey would be playing on Sunday against Minnesota. But it's not a playoff game. And that's why McCaffrey and the San Francisco 49ers have to exercise an abundance of caution with this injury. And let's go to my next point here. Christian McCaffrey is a special football player, and I admire his dedication to the game of football. You don't become a great player and the all-pro that he is without being extremely dedicated to the craft. His footwork as a running back and a wide receiver, it's uniquely special. It doesn't happen overnight. It happens by hopping in the lab and putting in hours and hours of work over the course of years. And Christian McCaffrey has a very regimented workout routine, and that includes a lot of specific quick twitch sprinting workouts. I've watched these videos on YouTube. It's fascinating stuff. And last year, when he won NFL Offensive Player of the Year, top 5 in MVP voting, more than 2,000 all-purpose yards, tied for first in touchdowns scored, and led the NFL in touches, he didn't want to come off the field. Kyle Shanahan even talked about how this was a battle between him and McCaffrey. And this is all because McCaffrey loves ball. So much respect for that. And going back to his youth, his dad, who was an all-pro and a Super Bowl champion under Kyle Shanahan's dad, Mike Shanahan, made him wear sweats on game days when he was in high school so that jeans or other pants wouldn't weigh his legs down. His dad would take him out of school early on game days to get IVs so that he wouldn't cramp. His dad would tell him not to squint because it wastes energy, and he would get grounded at the age of 8 if he was tackled by his jersey. Can you imagine that? This is a family that loves football, man, and I love it. It gets me fired up. His dad also told Christian to not yell at pep rallies because he would lose his voice and it would take away from his energy. He wasn't allowed to drink sodas. His bedtime was 7:30. All that is extremely unique, and it's led to McCaffrey becoming one of the most special running backs in the history of football. But with all that being said, the Niners this offseason signed him to a contract extension through 2027. They gave him guaranteed money. They increased his average annual value. And you can't mess around with an Achilles injury, because if it goes bad, and if the worst possible outcome ends up being a reality, it's one of the worst injuries that a professional athlete could suffer, especially for a 28-year-old running back. The Niners know that. They have to exercise an abundance of caution here. And we just saw Jordan Mason in week 1 against the New York Jets pop off for nearly 150 rushing yards as he had a career night. This year for San Francisco is about winning the Super Bowl. It's not about winning a week 2 game against Minnesota. It's not about your fantasy team. It's about preserving Christian McCaffrey and having him healthy at the end of the year when he's playing his best football, and so that he's his freshest, so that the Niners can complete that quest for 6 and win a Lombardi trophy. And if you play him right now, you risk him further injuring that calf or Achilles. And by the way, last year, he had a calf injury as well, which Kyle Shanahan said this injury is very similar to that. I would sit McCaffrey for a little while longer. I would ride the coattails of Jordan Mason because this offense can still survive and it can still be a very productive unit. With that, I ask you this. Should Christian McCaffrey play on Sunday? That's another one of our poll questions here on the show. P for play or S for sit. Today's 49ers Report sponsored by our friends at PXG. For those of you who watch this show, it's obvious that I love talking football. When I'm not in front of the camera, not on the microphone, and I have some free time, which is very rare during the football season, I love to play golf. And I just got a new set of irons from PXG, and I'm telling you, it has completely changed my golf game. And my iron game, it's always a work in progress. So when I heard how the new PXG Black Ops irons can dramatically improve my game, I had to give them a try. I booked a fitting at a PXG location. I brought my current irons and took the PXG Irons Challenge. My fitting experience and the results of the challenge were incredible. They set you up in front of a golf simulator. They have a PXG employee who studies your swing, and then you look over at the monitor on the golf simulator, and you're able to track all of this data. Club head speed, exit velocity, the angle of your club. When the instructor is looking at your swing, he will give you feedback so that you can strike the ball better. And I couldn't believe, as compared to my old irons, how the ball was taking off of the club face with my new PXG irons. The velocity, the exit velocity, the carry, the ball flight, it was dramatically different. And this is why PXG has the best irons. And look at the video right now. You're able to see how that ball is just able to take off the club face with a really easy swing from yours truly. The new PXG Black Ops irons are game improvement missile launchers that feature X-Core 2 technology and a dual cavity design that combines with their high strength, ultra thin maraging steel club face to deliver superior forgiveness, absolutely explosive distance, and a feel that's softer than a baby bunny. The new Black Ops irons are incredibly easy to hit. They maximize your performance. You're going to have a lot more fun because your game will improve. And they're only $149.99 per club. That's a great price for a great golf iron. So take the PXG Irons Challenge. Set up your fitting today. It's so much fun. And if the new Black Ops irons don't outperform your current irons by delivering either more distance or tighter dispersion, that means better accuracy during your fitting, you will get a $100 MasterCard rewards card Hurry up, though. This offer ends on October 7th. Book your fitting today at pxg.com. That's pxg.com. There are 200 plus locations to visit all across America. For those of you watching from the Bay Area, there's a location in the East Bay, Dublin, California. For those of you elsewhere in California, PXG Orange County, Huntington Beach, California location, and then Stone Tree Golf Club in Novato, California, and hundreds more nationally. When you set up that fitting and you arrive at the facility, tell them that the 49ers Report by Chat Sports and Chase Sr. sent you. Elsewhere on the Niners injury report here today, these players returning to practice. Defensive end Yetur Gross-Matos, great sign. Linebacker Dee Winters. Offensive lineman Aaron Banks. Wide receiver Jauan Jennings. And then, of course, Christian McCaffrey as well. Let's run through this list. I have some thoughts on all of these players. Yetur Gross-Matos injured his knee in the preseason finale against the Las Vegas Raiders, and it was a sprained knee for him. Didn't play week 1 against New York. He really offers a lot of value with his inside-outside flexibility, meaning he could play defensive end, he could pop to the interior, and he could play a little bit of defensive tackle. Crazy wingspan, really good athlete, an unbelievable athletic tester coming out of Penn State in the pre-draft process. The Niners have missed having that Arden Key, Charles Omenihu type of player who can play inside, outside. That's what Yetur Gross-Matos can do. Very good against the run and against the pass. That's what I think his potential is under Chris Kocurek, defensive line coach. Linebacker Dee Winters. We know that the youngster can fly. Hasn't quite worked himself to a point where he's going to be able to unseat Devondre Campbell to be a starting linebacker. The 3 starting linebackers for the Niners in week 1, Fred Warner, Devondre Campbell, Demetrius Flannigan-Fowles. But linebacker Dee Winters, at the very least, can help you on special teams. He'll put his hat on the ball carrier, and that speed really is fun to watch. He has to work on not being overly aggressive because sometimes he can over-pursue on plays. Offensive lineman Aaron Banks. He earned a 100 pass block efficiency grade against the Jets, but he did injure his calf, so Spencer Burford came in and actually played really well at left guard, even though Burford primarily has played right guard. But Aaron Banks coming back is good news because he's probably the 3rd best offensive lineman on this team behind Trent Williams and already the rookie Dominic Pooney. Wide receiver Jauan Jennings. He actually led the Niners in receiving yards against the Jets. 5 catches for 64 yards, of course, as is just the normal status quo for Jauan Jennings. A lot of those catches came in really clutch situations. And what's crazy about JJ, you would think that his numbers are so much better than they are because of the significance of the plays that he's been able to make in the playoffs and in the regular season. Last year, he only had 19 catches for 265 yards. In week 1, he already had 5 catches for 64. He was the victim of a hip drop tackle as the NFL is looking to try to outlaw that play. And we finally have a Dre Greenlaw injury update. This is good news for San Francisco. He continues to work his way off a torn Achilles that he suffered in the Super Bowl on that freak sequence where it popped as he was coming onto the field after a punt. And he was right next to Fred Warner. Him and Fred Warner are best friends. Warner knew immediately that whatever had happened was very serious. Dre Greenlaw is the enforcer of this Niners defense, and once he went out, this Niners defense really didn't recover from a physicality standpoint, a production and play standpoint, and then the middle area of the field really started to open up. Early in the game, Dre Greenlaw was playing incredible football against Kansas City. That caused Patrick Mahomes to go to the sideline and say, we need to match their physicality because right now we're not doing that. As for the update today, Dre Greenlaw wasn't in uniform. He wasn't wearing pads, but there's video of him working on hitting the sled at practice where he's lining up like this, and then he's kind of showing off some explosion vertically and pushing off his lower extremities, which is good because obviously that involves incorporating the Achilles to push that sled. His timetable to return is still unknown, so we're not sure when he's going to come back, but the fact that he's starting to ramp up at least a little bit and he's confident in that Achilles to at least push off of it, That's a good sign. Far away from playing the game of football, but a good sign nonetheless. And then Talanoa Hufanga, he continues to recover as well. Some chatter about him maybe being able to play on Sunday. I would say playing on Sunday is a little bit of a stretch. We covered a lot of ground here on the show. We always do that here on the Niners Report. So if you enjoyed today's show and you're not subscribed, be sure to hit that sub button right now. And as always, thank you so much for the support.